back to 31 Thoughts, the podcast. America alongside Elliotte Friedman, and pleased to be joined now by someone who just celebrated his 1,000th game in the NHL against the Montreal Canadiens in Montreal, Jason Spezza of the Dallas Stars. By the way, did you know, first of all, congrats. Second, did you know that Montreal was going to do that pause for you?
No, not at all. I was completely shocked and almost a little overwhelmed. It's a pretty big honor to be recognized in a city like that, and a city where I played lots of games, and I'm pretty thankful that the Canadian organization did that. That's something I'll always remember. Quick
reflection. I mean, I know that when players talk amongst players, how many games did you play is a big one. What did 1,000 mean to you?
Yeah, it is an important milestone because it shows longevity and you commit yourself to the game. So I feel like it's not something you come into the league thinking about, but as you get going, it definitely becomes a bit of a goal. And especially I had some health issues through the mid part of my career where, it seemed like it was a long ways off. So to be healthy now for a few years in a row and to feel good, I think it's something I'm very proud of.
Jason, you were in the spotlight from you were 15 years old. Every hockey fan in the country kind of was made aware of your name, and we can never write our futures and our stories. But I know this is a really broad question, but when you go back to 15 and you think of how your career and your life went, how close did it come to what you imagined or hoped it would be?
Yeah, it's a tough question, but I'm happy with my career, and I've been able to establish a family while playing in the league, and I would like to have won by now, but I still got a few more years to try to do that. We knocked on the door a few times. That's the one regret that you have, or one thing that I'm still chasing, is winning the Stanley Cup. That's what we play for. But as far as personal success and being able to play 1,000 games and just being able to be in the league and be as productive as I've been, I think that's all you can ask for that way. But I think that you never know what you're going to be when you're 15. There's all the hype, and you just kind of take it day by day, and you don't really look too far ahead in the future. So I think it's gone all right.
Take us back then to 15-year-old Jason Spezza. First time I saw you were playing on Stan Butler's Brampton squad. Raffi Torres on that team as well. And I remember, like, to Elliott's point, I mean, everybody knows the name Jason Spezza early. What were your expectations of hockey? And at what point did it become legitimate that, hey, you know what, I've got a shot at making hockey more than just something I do to goof around with my buddies?
Yeah, I love the game. I've loved it since I was a kid. Like, it doesn't feel like work for me to go to the rink even now. I think part of the beauty of it is like all the emotions that go with it. So I think I've never had a hard time with that. So as a 15-year-old, I think I just wanted to get better, and I've always you're always looking to improve, and I felt like I could be an elite player in the NHL. And at that age, you think you can be the best.
At what age did you think, like, hey, I got a shot at this?
Well, I'd say when I was 13, I started to kind of be a little bit better than everybody. And at 14 was a huge year for me. I went to school at St. Mike's. I practiced every morning by myself. My dad would drop me off at the rink, and he was working downtown, so we'd drive from Mississauga, and he'd drop me off early for school. I'd skate. I'd go play on the school team, and then I'd go play again at night for Toronto Marlies. So I played hockey that year all the time, and I just felt like my game went to another level, and just that's when I really felt like, okay, I can do something here.
For the first time, we have something in common, because nowhere in that did you mention you went to class.
Yeah.
So you and I are very similar in that kind of way.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Jason, because you talked about something that I really do believe separates the good from the great. And that is that you love hockey. And I know that, you've got 4 daughters at home, so I know you're running around a lot, but you like to watch it. So if you could sit down one night and watch any 2 teams play in the National Hockey League, which 2 teams would you pick?
Ooh, it's a tough question. Well, I like watching Pittsburgh because Sid is someone I have a lot of respect for. And the way he plays the game. But Gino is a guy that I really like watching because he's kind of a big, rangy guy, and I can kind of take stuff from his game and try to put it into my game. And then McDavid is just electrifying. Like, if he's on TV, I want to see what he's up to, because he's pulling you out of your seat, whether you're a player or not, and he's special. So those are probably the teams that I'd like to watch the most.
I don't think too many people would argue with that pick, do you?
No, Connor's pretty good. He turns defenseman pretty quickly. I remember that first game against St. Louis, his first NHL game, and he's going down against Meester, and Meester turns. Like, Meester doesn't show his nameplate to anybody, first game he's showing it to Connor McDavid.
No, he's special. He's got another gear that nobody else has.
You talk about loving the game, and I'm always fascinated with people that talk about hating things they love, and I think it's a healthy thing. One of the great things about enjoying sports is also hating it, finding things you don't like about it. Have there been times in your career where you've hated this thing you loved?
Oh, for sure. I don't know if I've hated the game, but I've hated where I'm at in the game. You get down on where your performance is. You get down on how your team's doing. You get down on some of the relationships that are happening and the emotions that go with it. And that's where you have to really pick yourself up and find your way out of it. And everyone's going to have peaks and valleys. And it's just a matter of riding your highs and limiting your downtime, because nobody's immune to it. There's no player in the world that will go through not having a slump or a downtime or when your confidence is down. And to me, I think the important thing you learn is that you just have to limit when you're down and figure out a little bit of a roadmap out of it and how to get yourself out of your slumps and out of your bad times.
So let me ask, because I remember one of those times I know you really battled was the 2007 Stanley Cup Final against Anaheim. John Paddock was the assistant coach then, and he mentioned that after the first 2 games in Anaheim, you asked for every shift that you took against the Anaheim guys because you wanted to see again what was going on. So how do you, when you look at that, like how do you go about saying, I'm going to work my way out of this?
For me, I turned to video a lot, even back then. Now it's easy to grab your shifts. Back then, the video coach would have to make CDs for you and like really work to get your shifts out. But I've always turned to video because I'm a visual learner. I like to see myself and what I'm doing. And then I have kind of a series of drills that I do in practice. I spend a lot of time after practice working on little things, and I just try to, I think you start putting the work before the skill, and then your skill kind of comes out. So for me, I usually start by watching the games and figuring out what I'm doing wrong. And a lot of times for me, it's I stop moving, and when I stop moving, I'm not as effective. So that's something that I've learned over the years and just try to get myself out of as quick. And then you have to follow it up with drills and follow it up with habits to kind of get things going. When you're rolling, you're rolling. You're doing everything right. You're reading the plays. You're skating to the puck. You're doing things good. But when you're not, you have to identify what you're doing wrong.
The 2007 final was a fascinating one. Ottawa Senators, Anaheim Ducks, and I can recall saying to myself when it was all done and Anaheim wins, I said, I really wish that Ottawa didn't have that big layoff. I mean, you guys were rolling. Like, I still maintain that in this era, that is one of, if not maybe the best team that didn't win the Stanley Cup. And I'm sure you guys felt it, like how good you guys were. When you look back on that 2007 team and that Stanley Cup final, always reaching for answers, what happened, ifs and buts, what goes through your mind, Jason?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt the layoff did hurt us. And you think there'd be an advantage to making quick work of everybody, but it actually was a disadvantage for us. So that is something that was legitimate. But we lost in 5 games, and the first 2 games we had 5-on-3s with a 1-goal lead. We have the games were really close, and we probably should have won one for sure, if not maybe both. And then you come home, you feel the pressure. We win game 3, and game 4 we just drop an egg and don't play very good. And then you're really got your backs against the wall. And we were a younger team to be in the finals, and I don't think we handled game 5 very well just going into it. That's maybe my regret, is that maybe we didn't have the calmness to approach it, that we just got to chip away at it. Like it was a long trip back to Anaheim. We got off to a bad start in the game, and it was a difficult game for us. And I look back and regret that game wasn't more competitive, because you couldn't do anything about the games before. We missed our chances, but that game 5 was not how we should have been.
What went through your mind when you saw Alfredsson take the shot at Niedermayer?
It was so funny. I was going to ask him. I was going to say, my question was going to be, he did it on purpose, didn't he?
You have to ask him.
So funny that we thought of the exact same thing.
It was such a flashpoint moment in the series, and so uncharacteristic. I mean, you're talking about not being, being unflappable and on point and focused. And here's, of all people, Daniel Alfredsson, who teased one up at Niedermayer.
He had an edge to him.
I think, Alfie's a very competitive guy, and I think it was probably a little bit of a desperation. Let's try to rally the troops, change things a little bit. And definitely two the gentlemen of the game, Scotty Niedermayer and Daniel Alfredsson. So probably a moment that goes down in history a little bit.
I wanted, Jason, when you're here, to talk about Jason Spezza, the person, because I really believe, as great a player as you are and what you've accomplished, making it 1,000 games in the NHL with more to come, I really do believe that there are things that you have done off the ice that are incredible. For example, when Sam Bennett couldn't do the pull-ups, I guess it was, at the combine. It was you who sent him a note and said, don't worry, I didn't have a great combine either, and it didn't affect me. I thought that was a really great thing you did. And one of the things I remember one night on a hockey night is we go in to do a game in Ottawa on a Saturday night. And on the Friday, Jeff, there was a Baton Rouge not far from the rink, and we went there for dinner. And you were sitting there with Brian McGrattan and the late Ray Emery. And that is when I first heard about what you helped those two guys through. And can you take us through your friendship with both of them and why you felt it was important that you helped them battle their demons?
Yeah, they're both very close friends of mine. We were really close. We lived together for a long period of time. And both guys went through substance abuse issues, and I always tried to be someone they could talk to. And, even Gratz to this day is the model for how to handle yourself through rehab and through living your life the way that he has, since his issues. So for me, I think that the game has given me so much, and not in particular to Brian and Razor, but it's important that you kind of give back to the guys you're playing with too. And I think that I've been very fortunate to have all these experiences, and now that I've been around for a long time, but the relationships are kind of what makes this so special. Like you're going to miss the game when you're done. You talk to guys, the competition you miss, but you really miss the guys, and you really miss the ups and downs and going through it together. And I think that you can really help people along, because a few words of encouragement here and there can help get someone out of a funk. And that's kind of how I try to operate, because I know that I can get down sometimes too. When somebody tries to pick you up, it helps, and everybody else goes through the same thing. So I think it's almost your moral obligation to try to pick people up along the way to create a better environment for your friends, your teammates, your associates, people you're around.
And I always assume that it's difficult when you see players like Emery, McGrattan, who are friends, who are teammates, and you hear how people are talking about them, what they're saying about them, what they're writing about them, and you probably say to yourself, well, that's not right. Well, that's wrong. Like when you look back now, like what did everybody get wrong about Ray Emery and Brian McGrattan? What did you look at and say, whoa, pull up, that's not right?
Well, I think Ray was very misunderstood. I think Ray he was a flamboyant personality maybe before the social media era of where everybody wants to be flamboyant now and where it's looked at as a positive. He was that guy just by being that guy. He liked it, and I think it made him tick a little bit. But he was such a loyal and well thought out, intelligent person, and he got the reputation as being this hothead that didn't think about anything he did. Like Ray's a smart man. Like he was a really sharp guy. Now that he's passed, it's amazing the outpour of people that talk to me about how he touched them, how great of a teammate he was. And people don't know that because people just think of the white Hummer crashing on the highway, going to the plane. And they think of all the crazy stories they hear and him fighting Peters and laughing. And
Josh Gratton in the AHL, that was a good one.
Josh Gratton, yeah. So sometimes the myth becomes bigger than the man a little bit. And he's a guy that when you strip it down, he was a phenomenal teammate. He was a phenomenal person, and he had a huge heart, and that's what you want him to be remembered by. And Gratz was the same thing. Gratz was like a big puppy dog. Like he's like this big tough guy that protected me my whole career. When I played in the minors, it was a tough league during the lockout, and nobody was allowed going near me because Gratz would stare him down. And I think he fought like 47 times in 1 year, but he was like a big softy off the ice. Like we'd make fun of him. He's like the gentle giant, and on the ice, he's an absolute killer. So it's just, you create a persona by playing, and some guys you need it to survive, to be a player, but the people are a lot different usually than the players.
One last one on this. I thought it was really a great thing that Ottawa did was waiting for you to get there to do the Emery tribute video so you could see it when you played in Dallas. Are you doing okay? Like, have you...
Yeah,
handling it okay?
It's. I'm very happy that the team recognized him, because I think that he needed to be recognized. I'm happy they waited for me to be there. It was a difficult couple days around it. There was a lot of situations around the days that made it a little bit difficult for me, and to see the tribute was hard for me at the time. But I think it's all part of the grieving process too, and I think it's helped. But I'll always remember Razor. When I put my gear on, it makes me think of him, and the crazy smile he gets, and he's a special guy that will never be forgotten by me and a lot of people. So it was very classy, the Sens organization.
Outstanding. Little bit of bio information on me, Jason. My first rinkside
This is about
ever.
Jeff, not you. This is
That's
about
right,
Jeff.
but it does relate to Jason. I don't think you even know this. December 29th, 2007, my first rinkside assignment for Hockey Night in Canada. In Ottawa, your Senators facing off against the Washington Capitals. My first walk-off interview was Jason Spezza. Wow. I can remember standing next to him and I said, "Do you like doing these?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, I don't mind." Some years later, I'm going to ask you the same question on mic this time. Yeah. Do you like doing walk-offs?
Yeah, they're all right. If you're playing good, they're all right. If
it's 6-0, and
if you got 2 goals and they're giving you a towel and you're talking about how good the team is playing, they're great. They can be difficult. They can definitely be difficult, but you do get the walk-offs are probably unique because you get a little bit of raw emotion and you get the huffing and puffing after a shift sometimes, and you get. I think they can be kind of.
The reason I ask is because I find it challenging to ask athletes about what they've just done, because in a lot of ways the game plays you, and it's like this zen-like moment when you're out there on the ice, and it's hard to right away, "Hey Jason, what just happened?" "Oh, I don't really know. I was just playing." Like, do you find those?
Well, you're never going to get much from a guy during a game, I think. Like you're still focused on the game. Usually the most introspective pieces you get are going to be on off days or on days when you have time to sit and think and talk. And when you're at the rink, you're really focused. And sometimes, you just want to get through the interview and get to the dressing room to get the say something in the room or get to the next thing.
I saw that look a couple times.
Yeah.
How many Hockey Night towels are you up to now? Probably.
Oh, I don't know. Quite a few. I got a good stash in my house in Toronto, and awesome. I got a few in Dallas, and they're keepers for sure. But I was fortunate to be on Hockey Night in Canada a lot, playing in Ottawa.
So before you came today, you had a film session with your new coach, Jim Montgomery, and you said he's pretty good. Like his film sessions are good.
Yeah, he's holding your attention. Like there's no preferential treatment to anybody in our locker room. He's trying to teach us from the ground up. He's got a unique system, and he wants us to play a certain way, and he's holding your attention. I've been really impressed with the confidence that he's come in with and his ability to explain what he wants. And I think that's been, when a guy comes in with confidence, you've seen that before, but the way that he can portray his message and get it through to us and explain himself has been really impressive. I think he's got a great future.
Like you said, he will point at a guy and say, "What are you doing here, and what should you be doing here?" Is that what he kind of does?
Yeah, exactly. Like he wants to know what you're thinking on the play. He just doesn't, because sometimes the video, it shows one thing, but there's a thought process, or there's a lack of communication. There's something going on to cause the reaction by the players. So he thinks very much like a player still, which is impressive because a lot of coaches don't see it that way, but he does see the game as a player still.
Who is the worst explainer of what they're supposed to be doing?
Oh, I don't know. That's a bad question. You can't ask those questions. I won't give you an answer to that.
Don't worry, Jason. No one's listening.
Off the mic, I can tell you.
Okay, another Montgomery question. What does Jim Montgomery expect of Jason Spezza?
He expects me to produce, and he expects me to be a good example in the dressing room. He's pushed me again to get back to being an every night contributor. I think last year was a difficult year for me. I don't think I had much of a role on the team, and Monty came in and has pushed me to get my confidence back and to contribute every night again. And I think that was something I needed to hear, and I think that it's engaged me again too. I think I feel like I can impact the games. I feel great physically. I feel like I prepared really well for this season, and to have a coach come in and he's pushed me. He's even nights where I've played what people think are pretty good. He's showing me clips of things I can do better. Like he doesn't think he thinks I can do more than I'm doing, and I think I can too. And I'm happy with it because it's challenging me again.
I was having a conversation last night here at Sportsnet with a couple of guys, and we were talking about who has the scariest shot in the NHL. And there was a lot of Shea Weber, Zdeno Chara, this type. And I said, John Klingberg. And I said, John Klingberg, why? I said, because he's the only defenseman that's not shy about sailing it in high. How many conversations, we asked Tyler Seguin about this a while, how many conversations, if any, have you had with John Klingberg by saying, hey, you might want to put a leash on that puppy and kind of bring those down a little bit, because he's not shy about lifting them up?
No, it's a fine line for him, I guess, a little bit, but he shoots little half wristers. So when D are taking those big clappers that are going high, that sometimes is a screen you can't react to. But he's got that little half snapshot half wrister that sails high. So it's not as dangerous, as a guy that's like he's looking, his head's up, he's looking. And a lot of times we've talked about how it can be a good shot because even if the guy tipping or screening misses it, the goalie doesn't pick it up. And Erik Karlsson's been the best, recently at it. Before that was Nick Lidstrom was like the guy that all these guys are trying to copy. He had that little, 4 feet up in the air wrister that finds its way through sometimes. So I think that's what he's trying to accomplish. Sometimes it gets away from him, but hey, it's a game of errors. It gets away from all of us sometimes.
And you changed your stick too, like you did a couple years ago.
Yeah, well, I went through. Well, I used wood forever.
Well, and Brian Murray always used to fight with you about your curve.
Yes.
Yeah,
because I used to have a big toe hook, and with the old gauges, my stick was illegal because like how severe the curve was at the end. So me and Brian used to always argue about it, and he told me he was going to fire my favorite trainer if I ever got caught. So
now, hang on. To that point, did you have first period, second period, third period sticks when you played in Ottawa?
I had shaved down ones. I had
I'm not using this in the third because that's when they're going to call a stick.
Yeah, and I got called on an illegal stick.
I remember that Toronto. You stepped on the blade.
And I tried to break it because I had done that in the American League and broke it, and I got a 10-minute misconduct instead of getting a 2-minute penalty. So that's the story behind.
Smart.
So that's the story behind why I was trying to break my stick. But I think the ref was Dan O'Halloran. I can't remember who the ref was, but it was a vet. It might have been Mark Jonette. I'm going to be wrong, but it was a veteran ref that wouldn't let me get away with it. So the video is like me on the bench trying to break my stick. But the reason why I was trying to break my stick and nobody knows is because in the American League I had done the same thing and I got a 10-minute misconduct instead of a 2-minute minor. So I was trying to get a 10-minute misconduct for unsportsmanlike. But now the gauges are different, the sticks are different, so you don't have to. It's not a hassle like it was. Nobody's sticks are illegal anymore.
Last one for me, and that it's perfect off that. That's why you're going to be a GM someday, right? Yeah. Like you are going to go into management, I assume.
I want to stay in the game for sure. I love it. I don't know what I'd do without hockey. So, I think my wife thinks I'd go crazy if I stopped watching hockey. I definitely have aspirations to stay in the game.
And last one for me, we talked about this off air a little bit. You're a podcast guy. Yeah. Like you've come over to the podcast side of things. Yeah. What do you listen to? I'm sure fans would be interested.
Yeah, Joe Rogan, pretty popular one. We were talking to Peter Attia, Ben Greenfield, some of the fitness guys. Just kind of starting to dabble into it a little bit, but I drive out to the Frisco and practice, and sometimes I listen to some parenting stuff too to try to
4 daughters.
Help me out with 4 daughters.
I got all the help you can get. I appreciate it.
So some of the TED Talks are really good. I find it's like a good way of educating yourself on something you don't know about. Sometimes it can be like a quick summary of something that maybe you're curious on.
Will there ever be a Jason Spezza podcast?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. You guys got it covered.
Just tell you, I grew up with 4 sisters. During that decade when they were all teenagers, my dad aged 46 years. So that's what you've got to look forward to.
Jason, it's been a pleasure. Continued success. Congratulations on the 1,000.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.